Hey there, Aquarius. So this is the forecast taking you from the 11th of June, the day of the full moon in Sagittarius, right the way through to the new moon in Cancer on the 25th of June. Now, this is an interesting one. Jupiter's just changed signs. He's gone into the sign of Cancer in your sixth house. He is absolutely illuminating everything to do with how you live your life and I think how you make sense of it. What stories are you telling yourself about your life? That's definitely one of the things that I think is going to come up. Now, obviously, the full moon in Sagittarius is a sign ruled by Jupiter. And so the full moon is also carrying these Jupiter themes. In fact, Jupiter is such a strong planet in this 2-week forecast. So what I want to do for you, Aquarius, is to pace you through some of the biggest movements in this 2-week process and talk about how it's going to affect you from your Aquarian mindset. Now, on that, I just want to say, if you've been studying astrology and you've been using a whole sign charting method, that's what I'm choosing to use for these forecasts. So it's whole sign tropical astrology, Western astrology, you could say. And if you're somebody who uses a Placidus charting system, so maybe you've learnt your birth chart using Placidus as the chart system, then you would have actually Aquarius and Pisces most likely in your first house. So I would recommend that you listen to Aquarius and also Pisces. Now, I should also say some people do listen to their sun sign. And if your sun sign is Aquarius, you may also find this really useful. So knock yourself out. Use it in the way that you want to. If you're new to this channel, my name's Louise Satana Munson. And really what I'm hoping to explore today is how can you find a sense of ease, grace and joy with your life over the next couple of weeks. Let's see how the astrology is going to work with that. Now, I have released another episode about this whole period, but for all signs of the zodiac, and I go quite in depth with that. But this one, I'm trying to keep it a little bit abridged so you get the feel for it. And are able to get some use out of it as well. So I'm going to be looking at two charts in particular, the full moon in Sagittarius chart and also the new moon in Cancer chart. But before I go there, I just want to quickly, first of all, say a very big thank you and show my gratitude to the people who support this channel. Thank you so much. You really do make the difference for me. So thank you. Anyway, let's have a look at these two charts. So the full moon in Sagittarius, you can see here, is going across the 5th house and the 11th house polarity. Now, this polarity, I think, is a lot to do with creativity, how we're expressing ourselves. The 5th is a deeply creative place. It's a place where children come in. It's a place where new relationships start and sensuality begins. If you think about the sort of energy at the start of a new relationship and that sort of sensuous sexual urge that comes up, it seems to come from nowhere, but it's this like womb creation thing that's going on. And it's like every one of your hobbies, all the things that you love to do that kind of light you up, it's like it's all generated from here. And so that's really about self-creation, I think, down here in the 5th. And yet up here, this is about the collaboration that you might be doing with other people, the sort of co-creation, the that feeling of the joy of doing stuff with other people. And I also consider this to be a law of attraction house as well. But, with this moon up here, this full moon up here, I think the sense of danger with groupthink right now is probably a little bit too much. And you're really wanting to focus on what feels really right and real for you, without anybody else interfering with your joy. To me, this first week is really premised on it's time for me to experience my own joy. I want to lift myself up. And I don't want to be creating something with other people because other people can take me off my moral compass. It's very easy to be swayed from side to side when you've got other people involved in your creation. So that seems to be a bit of a point of tension. However, as this 2-week forecast progresses, you'll see that the moon is going to move through all of these houses until she comes to the sign of Cancer, by which time the sun will have reached Cancer as well. Funnily enough, just where Mercury is right now at the time of the full moon in Sagittarius. So if I have a look at this chart, you'll see that the moon and the sun have arrived here. Mercury's a little bit later on in this sign and Jupiter's still here. So, to me, this is a real indication that there's a new moon coming and the 6th house is really deciding or determining how your new start, your fresh new start is going to look. And this is a workhouse of the chart. I have to say it's a really, really busy place. It's a place where we do our life, where all of our routines are captured there, our sense of fitness. Are we really ready to take control of things? How are we managing our money? How are we managing our home, our washing, our children, whatever it is that we're doing? How are we doing it? Are we achieving everything? To me, this is really describing the ongoing story of what we're manifesting in our material reality. And it is really a material reality. When we come over to this side of the chart, it's talking about how we're losing touch with our story. We're dissolving our personality. So I really think this is a very sort of highly productive and highly stylized part of our chart that really describes what we're about in some great detail. So this new moon here, I think, is creating a new story about your life, what it's about, maybe its purpose, and maybe to create some new habits. So you've got this sense of a new start so that you can repattern your diary. You can, create new space for yourself. To me, this is a new feeling, like a new ethos for your life. And I love it. I think it's great. What I really love about it is it's also capturing this Jupiter energy. Now, at the time of the full moon, the new moon, Jupiter is known as being under the beams of the sun. He's slightly weakened, but the day before that, actually, the sun and Jupiter are exactly in a conjunction, and it's known as being a Jupiter cazimi, where Jupiter energy is super strong. So we get the shot of this before the new moon. And, what I really get with this is we are getting to see what expansion feels like, what hope feels like, what well-being feels like. And so to me, the Jupiter themes of faith, optimism, hope, a sense of doing stuff for the right reasons, finding your truth. I really think this faithful, optimistic, truth-seeking, well-being energy is going to be sort of infused into this new moon. You may well be creating new routines for yourself, in particular to do with your physical health. And how joyful you are with your physical health. It might be that you're starting new routines that are going to get you out and about and just feeling really good, so you're not going to do something that's punishing, that's going to feel like crap. You're going to do something that's going to lift you up. And that's kind of important. It might be a time when you fit going to church or going to some kind of a spiritual circle or something like that into your routine. Or it might be that it's time to do retreats as something that is lifting you up. There is this feeling of nourishment, I would say, because the sign of Cancer, which all of these are on, including Mercury, is all about your nourishment. So I do think that this from full moon, where we're a bit stressed out about other people kind of influencing our lives and maybe taking us down a wrong road, from there to this new moon in Cancer, I really think we're letting go a lot of things that really aren't going to be featuring in our new sense of where our life is going. So that's kind of cool. To me, it feels like it's almost a firm decision, which is interesting. I haven't said that to any of the other signs, because one of the themes about this 2-week period, I think, there's a lot going on with the community for you, but Saturn and Neptune in this conjunction is very tight at the moment. It won't go exact, but it's very, very tight. Now, Saturn is all about reality and Neptune is all about creativity. And it's also a little bit slippery, especially when it's under the pressure of Saturn, so sure, you could get into some very creative and well-structured communities here. However, I think it can also represent where there is a distortion going on, where with the creativity and our imagination, I think, and our high ideals, things can get very, very distorted. And so the certainty that Saturn normally brings to us in our chart, I think it's not there. We don't really have the access to it. We think we might, but I think we also might feel like we're distorted, in our thinking. For instance, have you experienced just recently how something you thought all the time, all of a sudden you have this kind of almost, well, where did that thought come from? And all of a sudden there's this new realization and you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. How, and if you go back to the you that was you, like say 2 years ago, you might realize that you've changed quite a bit. You've learned a lot. But I think that we are coming into a time of great distortion and also moving beyond that distortion. I mean, that's my hope as well. However, the reason why I'm bleating on about this is because, Saturn is also one of your ruling planets. but he's in a square to Jupiter and the moon and also the sun. Now, the 15th is a very sort of explosive day. There's a lot going on, and it involves both Uranus, one of your rulers, and Saturn, the other ruler. So both of your rulers are in tight squares on the 15th. And so Saturn is definitely feeling it. It's almost like the new life you want to build for yourself is questioning your involvements in different things going on with the community. To me, it feels like the new you that you're building and designing for yourself, the new life you're designing for yourself, maybe needs an exit of a community. And maybe that's what this full moon in Sagittarius is really about, that the community you felt very aligned with now suddenly doesn't feel very much like this is really what I want. And so to me, it feels like it's time to invest more in yourself now, and to maybe cut your losses, or realize that in fact, when you put kindness and softness into your life, all of a sudden your life starts to feel much better. The sign of Cancer is all about softness. It's all about the grace. And here I think you can really build some beauty into your life. And the funny thing is, and it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because we've been taught all our lives that money and power are the things that really drive, and that you have to go to some great effort to get things done. And we're always taught that really small changes really don't amount to much, but massive changes are the things that get things moving. Well, I think in this 2-week forecast, what you'll find actually is that it's the little movements that you're making. The little movements are actually creating a much bigger result. And so you may well find that by you living in kindness and you deciding to come into kindness, enjoy kindness, enjoy a sense of like self-love. I think when you're doing that, you are actually not only making a change for you, but you're actually making a change that is felt within your community, whether you realize it or not. I think we're persuaded out of this. I think we're kind of persuaded that the only thing that makes a difference is taking action and being seen. But I think it's the unseen things that you're doing right now that are going to really make the difference. And they might be the things that change the world in the way that you would like them to change. And so it's the stories that you're making up here about kindness. It's the stories you're making up here and deciding that they are going to be your new stories. They're the things that are going to change your life in a really beautiful way. And so the tension here on the 15th, on Sunday the 15th, is immense, because obviously there's something really strong and idealistic here that you feel very, very connected with. And then Uranus here is also in a square. If I go back to this chart here, you'll see Uranus here is in a square. So there's like some very high values that you have at home, very much in a difficult square with the people around you. Again, it feels like there's a disconnect between what you're feeling and what the people around you are feeling. So maybe this full moon, what it's bringing out is the feeling of disconnection from your friends who you maybe felt very aligned with, but also maybe at home you may be feeling a little bit disconnected. I think what's happening now is not that maybe people are picking one side or another with all of this great game of polarity that we seem to be living through right now, but it's that we're actually starting to choose ourselves. We're starting to choose our side, not this side, not that side, but we're choosing for us. And I actually think most likely once we all start choosing for ourselves, we'll come into a quicker union or unity than we would when one side is trying to persuade the other, this is the way. And sorry to kind of parody it with my fingers because I definitely do this myself. But yeah, to me, there is a real feeling of change throughout this whole 2-week period. So this is a very sort of like spiky moment around the 15th. And, Jupiter is continuing to make, another square, this time with Neptune. And at that point, you may well be like feeling like doubt, like feeling that maybe as the veil is lifting on certain things and as you're realizing things, it only takes one thought. Sorry, I keep starting a sentence and then going on to the next one. I'm getting quite excited, but it only takes one thought to actually start an unraveling, because often we have these thoughts, and there are some thoughts that are no-go areas, like some things that we won't consider, because if we consider them, it might mean other things that we'd thought were right were wrong. And I think this is across the board, no matter what your belief systems are. But it's almost as if there's this one thought that you've been holding as sacred, and all of a sudden, with this Jupiter, which is very much about faith and belief, and Neptune, which is about spirituality, but also idealism, and also confusion on a negative level. I think there are more thoughts, and as one of these thoughts comes up, and you out of the blue suddenly go, how did that happen? All of a sudden, there's a sort of cascade of new energy. And this is uncomfortable, Jupiter square Neptune. I mean, I know this because I've got it in my birth chart. It's one of my tightest aspects, the ability to hold two different thoughts in your head. And then, the sort of tension that comes from it is very real. And then we've got the sun going into these squares with Saturn and Neptune. So there's definitely something going on with your belief systems, especially around community things, especially around the values, the vision and values that you've grown with, the vision and values that really give you that sense of belonging. All of a sudden, that sense of belonging doesn't feel like you belong anymore. It just feels like you're slightly out. And you might find that you're slightly out because people might have political views, they might have religious views, they might have community-based views. I mean, you can have lots of different views, but you might find that you're off in one, and all of a sudden you realize everything just feels a little bit off. Again, this is a time for you to come back into your world and come back into your life. And this is why Pluto is right at the beginning of your chart. You are going through changes you didn't see coming, not by a long shot. So at the end of this 2-week period, the thing that really strikes me is where is it? Is that there are two quincunxes, two Yods. So one pointing at Pluto right, at the start of Aquarius, your ascendant, and then the other one is pointing at Mars. These are the two rulers of Scorpio, which has to do with like the stand you're taking in the world. Now, one of these fingers is pointing back to you. It's really pointing back to what fear are your current beliefs helping you with? Where are your current belief systems generating from fear? Because Pluto in the first is likely to bring up some fears. It does make us a lot bolder as well, I have to say, but it does also make us aware of the fears that have been controlling us. And so to me, that feels like something that, like a delicate new thoughts, a train of thought that may well awaken something, stimulate something in you. And then the other one is pointing to Mars in the 8th house, which has everything to do with blame, shame, guilt, anger, judgments, all sorts of different things going on there. So to me, it just feels like there's a lot of new things starting and a lot of new aspects about yourself about to be revealed. This is a deeply revelatory time for you. And honestly, I think the best way to handle it is to go inwards, to tend to yourself. Be as tender to yourself as you would be to a small child, to a tiny little baby. Like, imagine tending to little baby you, and it's the kindness, it's the softness that's required. And I think if you can be peaceful with this sense of a new start, I truly feel that you're going to be moving forwards with much stronger footing very soon, and feeling a lot more back in your body, a lot more like you belong to yourself. So that's definitely a wish I have for you, that you feel that sense of ease and joy. So I'm going to end that there. If that's been helpful, fantastic. If you wanted to book some time with me because you want me to sort of deep dive into your birth chart, then feel free to get in touch. All of my details are below. In fact, in my description box below, I think I've suggested there are 3 things that can help. So yeah, one is a consultation. The other one would be to consider joining my membership. With the membership, I do very much like this forecast today. I do a version very much for your relationships and connections, and also one for your career and ambitions. You get 2 sets of those each month, at the new moon and the full moon. So that's 4 readings you get with membership, plus daily ones, Monday to Friday. And there are 2 fortnightly meetups. There's loads of different things going on, so just check it out if it sounds of interest. Just have a look. Also, and here's the other thing which you might like: it's completely free. There's no hidden catch at all. But there is a link in down below in my description box. And it gives you access to 5 free questions on this new WhatsApp astrology service called Astronex. So if you're interested in that, give it a go. Just click on the link and there it is. So anyway, there you go. I hope that's helpful, Aquarius. Have a great 2 weeks ahead and hopefully I'll catch up with you real soon. Bye for now.